If it ain't big, it's frank. Gotta be this or that.
Hey there, and welcome to the first edition of the Quantum Brief. I'm your host, Matthew Gregory. The Quantum Brief is the podcast that's born out of my two groups, the Subspace Frequency Discussion Group and the in-person multimedia discussion and presentation group known as SPOC. SPOC is Salem Paranormal Observations, Consciousness, and Knowledge, and we talk about things, a lot of news and insights related to quantum, paranormal, holistic, and how all this subject matter is becoming more and more prevalent. I'm all over the place on social media, basically every social media app known to mankind, and I also co-sponsor the Roanoke Awakens page on Facebook and Instagram with Carrie Williams. So a little bit of a background here where I got started. Of course, in the 70s, the Star Trek series was in syndication, and my favorite character was Spock because he was the only alien on the crew. And then later in the 70s, there was also In Search Of in syndication. Now, In Search Of was an investigatory program hosted by the actor who played Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy. And they would take 30 minutes and investigate all kinds of creepy, weird, wonderful things that scared me, but I still watched it with one eye open because it was fascinating. Started reading a lot of books in the 80s. Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods was one of them. Philip Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, was another. And then I remember my senior year at Radford, sitting with my roommate, and this new show called The X-Files came on. And boy, that just, every hair on my arm stood up, and that was when I realized that, hey, this was my jam, and there's a whole lot going on that we don't know about. So let me talk a little bit about Spock meetings. We kind of go fast and furious. Lots of video clips. A lot of it is news, and I'm sharing things with you that you may not otherwise have realized or had time to soak in, and we'll discuss those things. We try to be serious and funny at the same time. We have a little rock music to start to get you in the groove, a lot of good snacks. A lot of times we'll have guest speakers. I may not say things that you agree with, or I may say some things that you agree with, but again, we're just kind of holding hands and exploring into this new set of realms, and we're going to focus on what we have in common in those meetings. A lot of the topics for the meetings and for social media include, obviously, UFOs and UAPs, ghosts and poltergeists, cryptozoology, psychoactives, psionics, etc. And then we have developed some theories. One theory is about AI, and we don't think that AI is a god or a religion, and we don't necessarily think that it's evil or that it's omnipotent, but we question whether or not it's an extension of ourselves, whether or not it's an archetype, or if it's just part of the fabric of the universe. And we will get to explore some of those in some coming up episodes. We also have some theories on what quote-unquote aliens or NHI are, non-human entities. And it's a variety of things. 3D space-time beings from other planets, solar systems, etc. Artificially intelligent or bio-AI. They could be light beings, which are not biological, three-dimensional beings. They could be us from the future. They could be interdimensional, extra-dimensional, etc. So I think the key to this is that it's not just one thing, it's a whole lot of things. Now, Spock meeting, it's a bridge, right? So in my circle of influence, whether it's work, I'm a Freemason, I'm a Shriner, sports, gaming, cosplay, geeky stuff, or just average people, right? I always try to be an ambassador, and I take the opportunity to bring the subject matter up because I think this is so important, because a lot of big things are getting ready to happen. So we'll talk about it. I won't push it, but I will lead people to the water and let them decide whether or not that they want to take a drink of it or not. Another theory that we have is quantum physics makes the paranormal normal. And I just think it explains everything. Quantum physics is vastly important. There was a gentleman by the name of Max Planck who was German. He was the father of quantum physics, and he received the Nobel Prize in 1919 for physics. And he said something very important that resonates to this day, and even 100 years later, it's still difficult to get your mind wrapped around. And he said, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. So everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. So that means essentially that the world we live in is secondary to consciousness, which completely blows my mind. Another theory that we have are the convergence of consciousness, which we just discussed, UAPs, and artificial intelligence, and where they all intersect. The archetype, the singularity, and the disclosure, and then what happens when they've all kind of met in the middle, and we'll refer to that as transcendence. And we'll get into this heavier discussion in some future podcast episodes. But let me take the time to remind you that we're going to have a subspace frequency meeting. That'll be this Friday. That's going to be the 29th, and that's at 6 o'clock at Apex. That's at 2134 Colonial Avenue Southwest, right? And plug into my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@MatthewGregory317. And we'll get you to other social media outlets and update you on things that are happening, meetings, news, and otherwise. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk with you soon.
A world is coming where money doesn't matter like it used to. As AI and robotics take over entire sectors, the old economy begins to dissolve.